Different's great, but being different for the sake of being different, I'm not a big fan of, right? If you just want to be different for the sake
technology
of it.
Technology increase, I would hide behind it.
And you start to hear some of their challenges, and yes.
Because it speaks to the core of who you are and what drives you forward. Because what makes you different is what drives you. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Master Connector Show. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Rob Genovese, and I want to see you here every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, because we're always coming at you with some great guests who want to help you up level. We get to learn from amazing people who are authors, speakers, experts in their field, who are going to help you level up and help you further your opportunity. You know, everybody's got a journey that they're on, and everybody's got their own set of circumstances that they want to overcome. And, you know, today's show about journaling your way back to you is a very interesting topic, and I'm excited to talk to our guest about this. But look, you want to know what's happening, what's coming up on the Master Connector Show? Go to masterconnector.show, where we have a list of all the episodes, all the guests, all the topics that you want to hear and people you want to connect with going into 2025. So we are big on creating connections, creating community. So look, we want you to be here, learn from our guests, connect with them on LinkedIn, and that way you can grow your network. And look, I am so excited to be here each and every Wednesday with my co-host, Steve Spiro. You know, Steve and I are two former shy guys, two introverts still, who learned how to connect with people, two guys who really could not get out of our own way, although I think Steve had more of a leg up than I did. He already had some success. I had no success when we met. But look, here we are today, co-hosting a talk show, interviewing people, connecting with people every single day of our lives, and making things happen together with people. So help me bring him onto the show, the Master Connector, Mr. Steve Spiro. What's up, Steve?
Robbie G, how you doing? Good guy. Man, it's good to be out here. You know, it's funny as you're talking, right? You know, yes, some success. All right, double black belt, but I'd rather punch people than actually talk to them. You know, I have a background advertising company when I got out of college, but more in the graphic design like you. I'd rather sit in front of a drawing board or a computer than talk to people. So I don't know, maybe success, but certainly not people skill success. Never thought I would be the Master Connector, but here we are. It's crazy, but you've come a long way too, sir. But yeah, absolutely. What's going on, friends? Steve Spiro, the Master Connector, coming at you live and direct. And yeah, this is going to be fun. I mean, journaling is a powerful tool for self-discovery, even if it doesn't feel intuitive at first. You know, I love speaking about this on stage. You know, journaling, it could be, I like to do, my journaling often is about the gratitude list and things like that, but it could be transformative in guiding us back to our authentic selves. You know, the key to making journaling impactful is finding a style that feels natural and true to who you are. You know, starting by asking yourself, you know, what do you want your journaling practices to achieve for you? And clarity, growth, and release, right? It's just interesting. Like, you know, many people have different styles of this, right? But once you have a clear, purpose, it becomes easier to find techniques that prompt and align with your goals, right? Without this step, journaling can feel like just another task instead of a meaningful practice, right? And I felt that in the beginning when I was doing some of that in the beginning in my morning practices, right? Think of journaling as a pathway. It leads to self-awareness and which fosters self-compassion and ultimately blossoms into self-love. And if you're watching some of my posts this week, you know, talked a lot about self-love, and it's hard to love other people until you love yourself. You know, the beauty of journaling, though, it's that it's a flexible process. You can create what works best for you, free from outside expectations. You know, through journaling, you build a lasting connection with yourself, uncovering strengths and understanding challenges, and ultimately growing into the person you want to be. And so, speaking of which, as we are about community, love for you guys, if you're here on the show, get in the comments, connect with each other. We've got somebody saying this is great, Steve. Unfortunately, we don't know who you are, so maybe in the comments you could say who you are. You're just coming up on our screen as LinkedIn user, but great to have you on here. Listen, we believe in LinkedIn participants, not LinkedIn lurkers. So we know we have people watching, but if you're not in the comments, we don't know. It's not like the LinkedIn audios where it shows the profiles that are actually on the show with us. So get in the comments, connect with each other. This is the Connector Show. So connect with each other. Make sure you hit the connect button and make sure you can have follow-up conversations down the line. That's all we're all about, building community and growing connections. So if you're ready for my man, Mr. Robbie G, to bring our guest up, type in right now hashtag Let's Go, and we'll get this party started. Robbie G.
Thanks, Steve. Listen, we have a great show for you. I'm very excited. Listen, Amanda Stern has been journaling since she was an angsty teenager. She credits her practice to helping her thrive through the divorce she didn't see coming, discover her voice, and become the person she always wanted to be. Now Amanda empowers her clients and community to embrace journaling as a path to self-discovery, self-compassion, and self-love so that they can get their own worth, find success on their own terms, and write their way to a life they love. Please welcome to the show, Amanda Stern. What's up, Amanda?
Hi, Rob. Hi, Steve. Thanks so much for having me here today.
Absolutely.
Great to have you.
We're pumped to have you on the show. And you did a great job as we're leading up to this week, kind of setting the expectations for what the community can expect here. And want to give a big shout out to our friend and loyal follower, community member, Yolanda is on here. She says hi from Texas. I think she's in Frisco, and she's welcoming you. So you got a special welcome from Yolanda. So appreciate you, Yolanda. Yeah, let's just get into this, right? So I want to talk about journaling, right? Because that's the essence of this particular topic here today. So community, type in hashtag journaling. And so here's the question, what do you think makes journaling such a powerful tool for self-discovery, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think for me, the answer is honesty. Because when we have an effective journaling practice, it requires honesty. It requires us to be open, to be brave, to be kind, and to really be willing to take a look at what's happening inside. And it doesn't matter really what kind of journaling we're doing, that when we start with that foundation of openness and bravery, being willing to look at what's really happening in our lives, we'll see that we find the answers and that we have more answers inside than we think we do in our lives. I know I'm a person who goes all the time. And if I don't build in time to be reflective, I don't think about what's happening around me. I definitely don't think about what's happening inside me. So creating for ourselves a practice and a space where we can really look inward, that we can ask ourselves questions, that we can find and listen to the answers, because we have them. We have them inside all the time. We just need to give ourselves permission to excavate them and bring them to light.
That's great. Robbie G knows, and it looks like he has a question, so I'll let him answer after this. But, when you were talking about self-discovery, and Rob knows me for well over 25 years, it might be 26 or 27, but he's seen some of the transformation. And, I was the guy that was so in my head, and nobody else existed around me. And like people were just a tool for my creation, if you will. And I started to, later on, after a lot of self-discovery, I started to evolve and start to see, what my greater purpose is. But it took a lot of time. And I wished I had, gained the opportunity to have self-discovery sooner through journaling. I would have been great. But Rob, it sounded like you had a question, sir.
Yeah, I just want to say that, to our audience, if you are struggling with maybe finding out who you are and you think it sounds like this frou-frou stuff, I've got to tell you something. What Amanda said in that introduction that we gave her, talking about self-discovery, self-compassion, and self-love, the one thing, the universal thing that was holding me back before I could do anything else. And look, I'm finishing up my first book this year. I'm a speaker. I'm a former shy guy. I couldn't talk to you. It was too painful, because my fear was so great. My fear of people, my fear of talking, my fear of expressing my own thoughts, for fear of ridicule and condemnation. The one thing that I did, and I haven't done journaling consistently over the years, but I have done it. And in getting that stuff down, finding out who I am, learning to love myself, but then discovering who I am was the turning point for everything that I've accomplished. And so I just want to give a hand to you, Amanda, for bringing this tool to our audience so maybe they can use it as the thing that helps them, because it's been absolutely phenomenal in my life.
Yeah. And what's particularly interesting for me to really realize and pay attention and talk about is that the self love is really a byproduct of the self compassion we develop as we really learn who we are and why we are the way we are, and how we make the choices we do. When we really understand ourselves, it gives us so much more room to be kind to ourselves. Because I think if we were to put all of us in a room together, right, and say who here is, who here's kind to themselves all the time, I think we'd see very few hand raised. If we ask people who here has high expectations for themselves, I bet everybody's hand would go up. And it's really hard to have very high expectations for ourselves without that kindness and compassion, because then we're just beating ourselves up all the time and kicking ourselves around. And it's hard to love ourselves when that's how we're treating ourselves.
So I want to follow up with something on that, Amanda. So sorry, Steve, I'm going to break in here because we have Ilona had a comment and she said journaling can help you set and track your goals. And the reason I bring that up, Amanda, is because some people may be listening and watching and going, listen, this all is great and all, but I need to build my business. I need to make money. I need to put food on the table. Can you make the connection as simply as you can? Because I know it's a very dynamic subject. Can you make a connection for those people who are like, well, maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll look into that some other time after I've gotten to whatever point? How do you make that connection?
Yeah, I will say journaling is a big, big field. So often we think it's a small little thing that fits in a small little box and it has to look a certain way. When we open our eyes to all of the possibilities, Yolanda's totally right. Journaling can help us set and track our goals. And if we only use journaling for that, we can have a beautiful, helpful, soul-filling journaling practice. I'm sure there are folks listening who are terrified at the thought of using journaling for self-discovery. There's lots of people who don't want to jump into why did I do that thing that I did that made me uncomfortable? Why won't I do this thing that I'm scared of, right? We don't want to ask ourselves those questions so often. But if we build a journaling practice around our goals, if we build our journaling practice around gratitude, if we build a journaling practice, even if it's kind of a diary, a historical record of what our lives are like, it really opens the door to all the possibilities. Because when we get used to journaling a certain way, then we can intuitively know when it's time to journal differently. I tell my community all the time, we don't need to journal the same way all the time. We can journal something different today than we did yesterday. We may use different techniques tomorrow than we did today. And if we are creating for ourselves a practice where we create space for ourselves to listen to what we need, we'll be able to know what we need. And we'll know, okay, now it's time to lean into my goals. So when I'm feeling frustrated, let me look back and see the progress that I've made because I've tracked it all the way through. Or if I'm feeling really sad and down today, let's just look at all of the great things that are happening in my life, right? So that when we are ready for that self-discovery piece, it'll be there for us.
Love that. That's great. Listen, one of the things I know, again, you can go kind of deep with this, or you can go a little bit more, businessy, right? So one thing I've also heard is, and a lot of business leaders talk about this, is at the end of the day, you kind of write out, what went right, what went wrong. That could be a way, and it could be done in a kind of a deeper way, or it could just be a business goal stuff, right? But there's definitely so much learning. And I want to talk about self-discovery a little bit. I want to also touch on self-love a little bit. I'll just say this, the golden rule: do unto others before they do unto you. And or no, that's not the good way to say it. Do unto others before you, as you would have them do unto you, right? and the corporate world is do unto others before they do you. Yes. But yeah, there's also, talks like, you want to, help other people and love others as you would love yourself. That was where I was going with it, right? The challenge is it's hard to love your others if you don't love yourself. So getting kind of into that place, and I've had a big journey. I was playing the comparison game for many years, where I just never measured up, and finally started to really feel good about myself, to the point where I could now feel like I'm valuable and I can add value whenever I'm in a room or whatnot. But I want to talk about self-awareness. So hashtag self-awareness community. So how could journaling help someone move towards self-awareness, self-compassion, and self-love? I know we kind of touched on it a little bit. Maybe we could dig into that a little bit.
Yeah. So I talk often in my community about the need for a journaler's toolbox, having a range of tools and techniques that we can use, that we can pull out to give ourselves what we need on any given day. It might be that we take out our journal and we just write whatever comes to mind, stream of consciousness like. And it's powerful to see what comes up as we do, as we are just letting our intuition run wild on the page. But other days we might need something else. We might need some journal prompts, right? A journal prompt as simple as, what am I feeling today? Or what do I need today? Can really shape how we move through the day by giving ourselves that time for reflection. We can do it in the morning, and the morning is my favorite time to journal when my brain is fresh. Really wakes me up for the day, but really being able to think through, well, what do I need today? Who do I want to be? How am I going to be that person I want to be? And also building in time at the end of the day for reflection, to think about exactly what you said, Steve. What went well today? What was I proud of myself for? How did I show up for myself? Even just shining a light on what I did today. What can I celebrate? That's always one of my favorite journal prompts, because if we don't allow ourselves to celebrate ourselves, we probably never will, because we're so busy going from one thing to the next thing that it's hard to realize that that thing we did, that was just a thing we did, was also powerful and helpful and impactful. So taking the time to record those things, even if we just spend 2 minutes before we go to bed, just putting it on paper in our own handwriting is really powerful, because then we can go through on those days when we're not feeling quite enough, when maybe we got caught up comparing ourselves with where somebody else is and judging ourselves because we are not there yet. We thought we would be further along, that we can go back and see in our own handwriting, oh, hey, I did this thing and that was really incredible. And I did this too, and this made a difference here and here. And because I did this thing, oh my goodness, I'm so much further than I ever realized I was.
Yeah, I love that. It's what's interesting is we have a tendency to just be so hard on ourselves. But what I remember my mentor said to, and he may have said this to you, Rob, as well, is put a list, journal down all the things that you feel good about yourself, the things you've accomplished. And when I started to do that, I'm like, okay, like I'm okay, like, yeah. And I think we have a tendency to be hard on ourselves. But I want to move to authenticity. One of the pillars of our show is being authentic, right? And so I want to tie authenticity along with, so community, type in hashtag authenticity. So what advice would you give someone who's struggling to find an authentic journaling style themselves?
Yeah, I would say, remember that what works for somebody else might not be what works for you. So often we think, okay, this works for these people, right? It's like what you were talking about, comparing yourself with other people, Steve, right? It's so easy to compare our journaling practice to somebody else's, because that person on the internet says this is how they journal. So you give it a try and you're like, doesn't feel really good to me. It's not giving me the results I want. I talk to people like this all the time who say, well, journaling doesn't really work for me, or I've tried it and it's fine, but it's not helpful, right? And when we pick through why it's not helpful, it's because they're trying to fit themselves in a small box. But when we start with the end in mind. What do you want your journaling practice to do for you? Do you want to know yourself better? Okay, great. Then you're going to journal differently than if you want to track your goals. Do you want to be more open and more grateful? Right? You're going to journal differently than you will if you're just keeping a historical account of your life. So being really clear on what you want your practice to do for you, how you want it to support you, makes it easier to find ways that'll do that. It'll get us out of that little box and keep us from just journaling just for the sake of having another thing to check off our list. And I tell people all the time, if you are just journaling because you feel like you have to, it's probably not the best way to spend your time. But creating a practice that really moves your life forward, that helps you feel more grounded in who you are, that helps you show up as the best favorite version of yourself. That's what really matters. And that's when journaling can be really worth our time.
So I want to ask you, Amanda, because that prompts a really interesting thought about what journaling is, what it can be in your life. And I don't know if I was journaling when I did this, but I'm a very analytical person. That's my hard wiring. I've had to learn to be more creative and to kind of let go a little bit. But I had done something that I thought was, maybe it was journaling, maybe it wasn't, but I was documenting some of the moments in time. So I'm big on storytelling. Part of building brands is getting in touch with your story and using it to connect with people. And this can be anybody's tool to be able to relate to people, is when we tell our story. And I've learned to document some of the pivotal times in my life. And sometimes it's way after the fact. I might go, way back in February, this thing happened. And now looking back, I can connect some of the dots. And I use them as kind of like pages in a book of a story to tell people so they can see, this is how I arrived at how I help people. And so the story that I developed came out of that practice of documenting moments of time that seem to be a turning point. Is that journaling? Am I doing it right, or is it something else?
I will say that is definitely journaling. And that question, am I doing it right? I hear that all the time. Every time I teach a workshop, someone in that group is brave enough to raise their hand and say, I'm here to learn how to journal the right way. And I love to just reassure people, if what you are doing is working for you, you are doing it right. If you are setting aside time for yourself to be reflective, you're doing it right. If you are getting what you need from your practice, you're doing it right. And my practice looks different every day. Sometimes it's stream of consciousness in my journal. Sometimes it's a sheet on a clipboard. This is my morning sheet I created for myself. It's got some scheduling for the day, my to-do list. It also has a place for me to write my purpose statement and my new moon intention and other things that are important to me, because I've learned if I don't write them over and over, I will forget they exist. So it's a way to remind myself of who I am, why I'm here, and then to give myself, I think I have right now 6 intention setting questions. How am I going to move forward? How am I going to show up as the person I want to be? This is a different kind of journaling than what I do in my journal, but it's journaling nonetheless. I have a sheet I do in the evening where I think about, how did I show up today? Was I proud of how I showed up? Right? I've got a habit tracker on there. I've got a space for affirmations. So the field of journaling is so wide. It's so big. And when again, going back to that little box, it's not one specific thing. That journaling to you can be something totally different than what it means to Steve, which could be totally different than what it means for me. But if we are creating a practice that sustains us and supports us and helps us be better humans, we are 100% doing it right.
I just got to say, I love that you showed a clipboard, because for an analytical person, I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, so she has a clipboard too. Because when I think of journaling, I think of the expensive premium moleskin journal with the thing that holds your place, and I need a fountain pen to write in it, and it's
very straightforward.
I hear that all the time. For anyone who's listening, people ask me all the time, what do I use? This is a book I got at the local everything store for $7.42. I go through 3 or 4 of these a year, so I'm not going to spend $20 on a notebook, because ultimately it's a place I'm going to I'm going to use it. It's a tool. I'm going to use it. I'm going to close the pages. And then I'm probably going to forget what I wrote until I open it again, which is why I do some of my journaling on these clipboards, Rob, because I learned that there are certain things I wanted to remember. And once I close that book, it's like playing a game of peekaboo. I don't remember that it's there until I see it again. So by writing these things that are important to me, tracking the things that are important to me, and then keeping them on my wall so I can see them throughout the day, that ensures that I'm going to pay attention to them. And it frees up more space in my journal for other things.
Love that. That's great. I just want to acknowledge real quick here, Yolanda saying we gain a deeper understanding of ourselves as and our motivations. She was commenting that earlier, and then journaling can stimulate your creative and imagination, creativity, imagination. Very good point, Yolanda. So we're gonna slip one in. We're getting really we're really up against the bottom of the hour, but I want to slip one in on transformation. So community, type in hashtag transformation. Can you share briefly, and then we'll close down, a story where journaling led to a transformational breakthrough for someone, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Um, so I think of a client that I had early on in this journey, and she and I journaled together. I run these beautiful group journaling sessions in my community, and she joined me for about 3 months. And it was interesting because we chatted before she joined about what she was hoping to get from her practice, kind of where she was at. And she said she was really anxious and she wasn't kind to herself. And she just spent a whole lot of time judging herself, being mean to herself. And we journaled together. At the time, we were journaling together 4 days a week, every week, for three months. And at the end, it was amazing to see how the way she spoke about herself was different. How she could say things like, I feel sorry for my body because I'm mean to it all the time. I don't take care of it. I drag it around, and then I get mad when it doesn't show up for me in ways that I like. And so just seeing her journey to, again, the self-discovery led to such beautiful self-compassion. And she developed this gorgeous self-love, which I don't know that she realized she was capable of. But this is the journey I see with so many of our clients and friends in our community. And it sneaks up on us when we're not looking. I know it snuck up on me that I was just focused on, journaling so I could be better, journaling so I could get through the day. And all of a sudden I realized I was so much nicer to myself. And that, holy cow, when I look at the mirror, I'm happy with what I see and who I see shining back at me. That instead of judging myself for making mistakes, I find ways to pick myself up and move my life forward. And that has been the absolute greatest gift journaling has given me.
Love that. Well, speaking, you mentioned sneaking up. This hour, half hour, snuck up right up on us. But I guess, Rob, I'll turn it to you. We want to talk about something here. So, Rob, go for it.
So listen, audience, we love bringing great guests like Amanda to you every single week to learn stuff. The whole idea that Steve and I want to do is we want to add value to your life. We're always about adding value to people's life because we know that's the best way to make an impact while furthering our own opportunities. So we always ask for our guests have a special offer, and I think Amanda does for the audience. Can you tell us about it, Amanda?
Yeah. So I have a free 7-day journaling. I used to call it a journaling challenge. I've since kind of embraced it as an adventure. 7 days of my favorite journal prompts delivered to your email. So that you can get to know yourself a little bit better, so you can be kinder to yourself, so you can learn to love yourself in ways maybe you haven't before. So that is available on my website, journalingforgrowth.com/challenge. I think Rob is going to pop it in the chat for us, but it is something, I call it 7 days because you get the prompts over 7 days, but you can take 14 days or 21 days or do it all at once, right? Do it in a way that works for you, but give yourself the gift of self-awareness and self-compassion and self-love because you deserve it.
Love that. Love that. Sorry about that. I'm not sure what we're doing here. There we go. Yeah, okay. Big ugly face. My big ugly face. No, but like that. That's awesome. We appreciate you, Amanda. What's the best way for the community to get in touch with you? Just let us know, please.
Yeah, the best way to find me is on LinkedIn at Amanda Stern Journaling. I'd love to connect. I'd love to talk journaling anytime. I'd love to help where I can.
Well, we really appreciate having you on here. You blessed our community in a major way. I'm going to have you go to the green room. Appreciate you. And maybe you want to stay around and we'll hang out with you for a few minutes afterwards. So, but thank you, Amanda. But Rob, we're going to close this down, get into, we're at 1:30. So we'll just talk about, listen, it's been great. Appreciate you, you community being on here. And I know there's a lot of you that watch it after on the replay. So if you want, please get on the hashtag, put hashtag replay if you're watching this on the replay. I know that we also have a lot of people on Spotify and Apple Podcasts watching and listening to the show. So definitely make sure you're commenting there as well. But I want to just close it down by saying this. Go to the masterconnector.show. You can find out all about the next up and coming shows. In particular, next week, episode 188, Wednesday, 11/13, closing the deal. 98% of the time. You want to find out how to do that? Come on with us next week with Orly Amor. She's an incredibly dynamic lady. So you don't want to miss that. But here's the deal. I want to just mention this before we close things down. Actor Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's journey towards self-discovery has been as dynamic as his career. Right after a promising football career ended due to an injury, Johnson struggled to find direction and faced financial hardship. Some of you guys may know his story, but through soul searching and a leap into wrestling and then acting, he found a renewed sense of purpose by embracing his strengths and authenticity, inspiring millions to pursue their own paths, no matter how many times they have to pivot. Listen, folks, let's continue to develop and grow ourselves and become the best version of who we are becoming, right? So that we can shine our light. See you next week. God bless.
And you start to hear some of their challenges, and yes,
because it speaks to the core of who you are and what drives you forward. Because what makes you different is what drives you.